Breaking news right now, Chris Cuomo has been suspended indefinitely at CNN. This comes just a day after newly released documents show that Cuomo used his media connections to get information on the women who accused his brother, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, of sexual harassment. Let's bring in tonight's company radio talk show host Mary Walter and senior contributor at The Federalist, Ben Weingarten. Good to see you both. Ben, here is Chris back on August talking about this. Take a listen.
So I never reported on the scandal. And when it happened, I tried to be there for my brother. I'm not an advisor. I'm a brother. I wasn't in control of anything. I was there to listen and offer my take. And my advice to my brother was simple and consistent. Own what you did. Tell people what you'll do to be better. Be contrite.
Ben, that's a lie. We now see the text messages. That is 100% a lie.
He also, it appears, lied about the fact that he was asking around to other members of the press, what are they hearing, what are they finding out, and yet he claimed he was not communicating with other journalists in connection with this. Look, the bottom line is the evidence that's been released indicates that Chris Cuomo was effectively serving as strategic communications advisor to the then governor of New York. And it's a complete indictment of his comments put forth. And of course, this is part of a much broader scandal, which is the conflict of interest that we've seen brought to stark relief over the last 20 months since the coronavirus pandemic started, where he gave fawning coverage to his brother, created a massive platform for him for several months with all the adulation that came with it. And then, of course, then only later made the decision to cut it off once the facts went against his brother. There's been a massive conflict of interest from day one, but this is the most damning episode in this saga to date.
I agree. Mary, the thing that's interesting, there's two things about CNN in particular that I find fascinating. One is, what does it say about them as a news organization that they just found this out? I mean, if you're supposed to be in the business of getting news and finding out things and you didn't know about this, it really doesn't say much about them as a news organization. But secondly, they're acting like they had no way of knowing. They didn't review any of this. They could have asked him. They could have looked at this. They could have looked into it. They didn't. The only reason we know this now is because they got caught.
Of course. CNN is not a news organization. You give them far too much credit. They stopped being a news organization decades ago. They are a propaganda outlet, and they don't care that everyone knows this. Sean, if this had been you here at Newsmax, you would have been gone, and rightfully so, a long time ago, because you're lying to the viewers, and they wouldn't stand for that. And time's up. All the women's groups, you know, was the women's group. They would have all been all over you to be fired. Not one has said a word about this. Not one. Right. So for anybody to expect any kind of truth from this, or consistency, or any kind of morals from CNN, you are barking up the wrong tree, because that's not where you're going to find it.
Just to be clear, I'm with you 100% on that. I was just trying to give you the question. Ben, they say he's indefinitely suspended. Is that like just sort of like I want to see other people, and then like, or has he ever got a shot at coming back, you think?
I think this is something of a purgatory for him. They will, I'm sure they have combed through all the records that have been released to date. They'll probably look into whether there are further records indicating anything even more damaging, especially when you hold up the tape of his comments versus with the conversations that were actually transpiring. But if I had to guess, because being on the left sort of means never having to say you're sorry and having an infinite number of lives, I suspect he will emerge from this ultimately. That's my prediction as of today. But then again, if there are more damning documents, perhaps that'll prove too optimistic for the Cuomo side of things.
Yeah, I just think he's going to start a podcast with Michael Cohen or something. But
Jeffrey Toobin.
Mary,
wait,
you brought
Jeffrey
this up.
Toobin's back.
That's right. Maybe Jeffrey Toobin gets the slot. So here's my quick question with the 30 seconds I have left for you. Do you think that any of these people on CNN that have been so outspoken on Me Too, et cetera, right, the Chris Cillizas, the Don Lemons, all these other folks, do they say anything, or do they stay silent as Ben kind of intimated?
Of course they're going to stay silent. They want to keep their jobs. So in a way, I kind of get it. I kind of get it. I just have a problem with Me Too and Time's Up and the rest of those organizations, those left-wing organizations, being silent. They have no obligation to CNN not to say anything.
Okay. Mary, Ben, thank you for joining us for this breaking news. I think you are both correct on all things above. Appreciate it. We didn't have a chance to get to the CNN calling what happened in Waukesha, the cars problem, not the individuals, but we'll break that down further later. Thank you both for being with us.